down there?
Well, you have to have a
Got to get a
cold,
cold.
and if you have to have a cold, and it has to be the kind of cold that allows your voice to go really
To
low.
go into this mode.
Yes.
Sauron mode.
I see you.
Sauron. Yep. I see you.
Well,
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
you think you've got COVID again?
No, this is a full-on cold. This is the crummy coughing, sneezing, aching,
So you can rest.
stuffy head fever, so you can rest.
So you can't rest.
You can't rest.
Yeah.
That's right. Nope. Yeah, cold. It's been going around where I work, so
Yeah, it's no fun. I've been having crazy nasal issues for a couple weeks now. The change in weather and stuff, I think allergies or whatever I'm allergic to is kicked in or something. So, but other than that, I've been fine. So just
usually about this time of year, you guys have that issue.
Yeah. I have it in the spring and the fall and the summer and the winter. So,
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the Rings of Power that comes out tomorrow.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have some concern about it being, woke.
Going the way of Hollywood.
Going the way of woke. Yeah.
Yeah, going the way of Hollywood.
And
yep.
I've seen some. There have been a few people that have seen it that have done a few talking points and stuff, and yeah, we'll see. My biggest fear is that they're gonna make is it Galadriel?
Galadriel.
There we go. Sheesh. Shows you how much of a fan I am, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, that she's gonna be quite the Mary Sue. But we'll see. For those listening who don't know what a Mary Sue is, just in case, that would reference someone who is naturally good at anything without having to work for it. Particularly a female that they just make, super powerful, smarter, better, faster, stronger.
Like Rey in the latest Star Wars movies. Yeah, didn't do a thing to earn her her abilities.
Yeah.
Just was.
That's a prime example of it, where there just wasn't a lot to that character other than just that she was, better than everybody else. And so that's annoying writing. I mean, I do think there's some interesting implications of sexism in that, because I think if you do that with a male character, the likelihood of getting the same criticism is lower, because there are male characters that have just been great at everything that people give it a pass. But when you do it to a female, and I don't know that that's totally unfair though, just because of the social culture that we live in, where it's a political message. It's the same thing when you cast a new character as a female, or excuse me, an old character. Like you take a character, you recast them as female when they used to be male, or you cast them as black when they used to be white. In and of itself, that's probably not a problem and can actually be an interesting choice. But in today's culture, it comes across as pandering, trying to sell a social message of some sort. And I don't know, it just doesn't work as well, which is unfortunate. It's kind of backfiring on the cause of those who are trying to push those sorts of things.
Well, it's obvious why it's happening, and when you take the latest Terminator movie, they did the same thing in the latest Terminator movie. So instead of having a strong male character, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, trying to be the good guy, the good robot, they had a female who was enhanced with cybernetics, and she became the hero in the film. It's interesting.
I didn't see that one. How long ago was that one?
It's a couple years ago. Yeah, it was the latest one that they came out with. It was really bad. I mean, they did kind of the same thing that they did with Luke and Han, by killing them off in one way or another. But you had John Connor, who all of the previous movies was centered around, was the birth and the life and the the leadership of John Connor and leading the resistance against the machines. And here comes in the very beginning of Terminator Dark Fate, and the young John Connor is killed.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you'd see that sort of thing. You'd see casting. I was talking with my wife about this the other day, this very subject, and we were talking about the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise, which
Yeah.
unfortunately did not turn out to be a good movie. But I don't think this is why. But I think that they recast the Mummy character as female for that. But it didn't feel political. Like it felt like they were just doing something
Nope.
different because they'd done mummies in different ways, and they thought, oh, let's do something different. So they did a female mummy.
Yeah.
And it didn't come across as some sort of political message. Now, unfortunately, the movie itself ended up not working for various reasons that we won't go into, which is too bad because the trailer made it look pretty cool. I was actually really excited about it.
You know, I actually still I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah,
I
you enjoyed
the
it more
movie.
than I, and I enjoy it. I objectively, I have to admit that it's not that great, but it's enjoyable. I mean, I purchased it, and I don't regret purchasing it. But every time I watch it, I kind of feel a little bit of regret that it isn't better.
My son watched or saw that they're coming out with a movie that has to do with a tribe or a group of African women who this was centuries ago. This really did happen, that a group of African women joined together and fought off white settlers from Europe.
I didn't know your son
And
was centuries old.
no, he was telling me about this movie that's coming out that's portraying this period of history. And in this film, they show these women as, of course, very strong, very capable. These women look like the women do from Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman's home
Right.
island that she comes from. And they, funny enough, in the movie, I guess they call themselves the Amazons, even though they're from Africa. So I don't know why they called themselves Amazons when they were from Africa
Right.
centuries ago. But still,
That
they
works.
call themselves Amazons. Yeah. So they and they fight off these white settlers and apparently save the day. So he looked it up. He decided, I'm going to look it up and find out what really happened in history. And there were many of these African women who fought about 300 or so European settlers.
Okay.
And when the numbers of the women were at least 3 to 6 times that of the Europeans. And the Europeans were all male, and all of the African women were female,
Right.
obviously, and because they were women. And anyway, in reality,
Wait, what is a woman?
I don't know. I'm
Did
trying
they
to figure that out.
did they
still.
identify as women?
Well, hold on a minute. I'm not a Democrat, so I know what a woman is. It's a female of our species.
Adult.
So, an adult female of our species, a human
For
species.
Matt Walsh. That's Matt. Credit to Matt Walsh. Where credit's due.
Credit to Matt Walsh. Credit to his wife.
His wife.
Credit to
his wife defined it. Correct.
She was the one that defined it. So anyway, in this real battle in history, the European settlers almost completely annihilated the female army, and
You mean
they
the
had to
men with
retreat.
armor and swords?
The men only lost 6. The women went from well over 1,000 down to about 30, and they retreated, and the men handily defeated them. And so it was really interesting to hear what really happened in history and this reimagining. Anytime that you hear people say
those 6 men were extremely embarrassed.
they were dead, so they couldn't be embarrassed.
But
So,
in heaven, they were ashamed.
Wherever they went, they were ashamed of themselves for allowing that to happen. But I mean, it just kind of shows this ridiculousness whenever companies in Hollywood or Disney, places like that, when they say things like, we're going to reimagine something. It means they are going to completely change in order to match the
in
social
order to their message. Yeah.
pressure of the day. Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
that's exactly going back to Rings of Power. I mean, they've said exactly that they're reimagining it. They've made comments about how it's got these social messages and it's for our day and et cetera, et cetera. And so, I don't know. I'm
which is
so
ridiculous because Peter Jackson created what came out of the books. Now he changed some things in order to make them more Hollywood, but by and large he kept to the story, and it was kind of funny. There were some people who were kind of criticizing when the one gal killed the ring wraith
right.
in
I
Return of the
am no
King.
man,
Yeah, I am no man, and
yeah.
she thrust her sword into his face, and he
Which
withered away
is,
and died, wilted.
yeah. I mean, and it is moderately kind of a feminist sort of
It is,
message, but
but it's
not offensively
straight out
so.
of the book. But it's straight out of the book, and
Well, and it's not.
and so
Yeah, it's not offensive, and it's not lying. It's not saying that she was somehow stronger or
because she was not a man.
smarter or just better somehow because she was a woman. It's just that that's the way the magic worked somehow. And so,
That's the way the magic works. She was saying, "Yeah, well, I'm not a man, so you're dead. Here you go, bam." And and so, that's kind of what people thought, 20 years ago when that movie came out, that it was a feminist thing, and that person had to be schooled. It was online. They were taken to school and told, this is not why. It's because this is actually what Tolkien wrote, and it's really unfortunate because you have Peter Jackson's version of the Lord of the Rings, which were extremely successful, and they are kind of the model of how you want to make a movie. And I would argue that Return of the King is still one of the absolute best movies Hollywood has ever made. But they don't learn their lesson. They decide that their messaging is more important than just entertaining, and that's why I really like going back to what you said about the Mummy. The Tom Cruise stuff is he's more concerned about just entertaining people, and I think Top Gun Maverick was a really good
yeah.
example of that.
And the Mummy just it didn't fall short because it was trying to message, send some message or something like that. Just I felt like the humor didn't quite work and some of the action didn't quite work, and just like it's other issues like that. But yeah, a lot of other the Mission Impossible stuff that Tom Cruise does. We just watched through all the Mission Impossible films again, and they're good. They're just good,
They're
solid,
solid.
fun. And they're, if you want an example of how to make women fight and make it believable, Elsa, Elsa Fisher, is that? I'm confusing the name. I think that's the character though.
Isla
That's
Fisher?
no. Elsa is the character's name in Mission Impossible.
Which movie are we talking
The
about?
last two.
Oh, we're talking. Oh, the last two. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know her name.
Yeah, let me
I don't
pull
know
it
her real
up.
name.
Mission Impossible. Pull it up here.
Yeah. So I mean, I
You know, I hate that. The moment that I need a name, my brain
that's
goes,
okay.
never mind,
Yep.
go away. Ilsa
Yep.
Faust is the character's
Yeah,
name, and
that
she's
that
played by
happens to me all
Rebecca
the time.
Ferguson.
Yep.
And the way that they have her fight, and she takes on men and beats them and stuff, but the way they have her do it is believable and works. Like, it's really cool. They
You
don't.
mean it's not like Black Widow? This tiny girl taking on all of these
Some of
huge,
Black Widow,
big,
they
strong
do
guys?
some of Black Widow the same way, and the way that they make Black Widow work is kind of the same way when it does work, which is it uses acrobatics and holds and things that are believable that someone that is not as strong might be able to pull off versus just being able to punch harder or something. So they use speed and different things like that. So
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, it's still enjoyable to watch. You didn't there was no sense of feminism with Black Widow. At least not the way that that she portrayed her. And I enjoyed that. It was it's so unfortunate that you have a lot of films where, especially today, I mean, right now, where you have extremely strong, capable female leads doing almost impossible things to men that are quite a bit larger than they are, and we're just expected to believe it. And it kind of, it's really unfortunate because we've broken out of reality. I mean, yes, films are not supposed to be real. We're supposed to just
Yeah,
imagine things.
exactly.
But
And
what they're doing is this is they're going beyond it. They're going to a point where they have said that they are doing it on purpose.
it's the
They're doing
messaging.
it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
It's the
that's what I was going to
messaging. They
say.
want that to be the
The
message.
problem isn't
They
breaking
want
reality. The problem is the messaging.
it is the messaging. If they decided that just good storytelling and entertaining was was uh was the goal, then I think they would do things a lot differently. You look at Top Gun Maverick and you look at how wildly successful that movie
Which
is.
we just watched again last night.
Oh yeah, because it just came
Yeah.
out to purchase. Yeah. So, but how good and solid that film is, despite its obvious similarities to the original, but it's still a very good, solid film. And you just think that Hollywood would get the message,
Well, and
but they're not.
that ties in really well to segueing into what wanted to talk about tonight. Through Star Wars, we want to talk about Disney tonight, but through Star Wars, we'll segue into it because I was thinking about that. When I finished watching Top Gun Maverick last night, which we took 2 nights to watch it because we don't have enough time at night to watch through a whole movie, just with kids and stuff like that. But so when we finished the movie, I just had this. I was cognitive of the fact that it just felt good. Like it's a feel good. The ending, you feel good when they win in the end, and Tom Cruise is actually the
Yeah.
hero, and he does the heroic things, and they beat everything. And even with some of the cliches and some of the silly stuff like that, it feels good. Like it's a feel good reward, and it's something that, like, when you take Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and I think
Rise
particularly,
of Skywalker.
well, particularly The Last Jedi is what I'm thinking of. I think what they did to Luke, and also in the what was the first one called in the new ones? The
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. In the Force Awakens, what they did to Han, it did not feel good. Like it felt awful. Like it was just like, and I don't mean awful like good awful, because there is good awful. Like you can watch movies that are depressing and make you cry and make you hurt and make you feel terrible,
But you're emotional. You do that because you're emotionally involved.
and it's just a great story and you love it. One of the things, I love musical theater. It's one of the things I love, and some of the theater shows that I love the most are depressing. Like one of my favorite musicals is Miss Saigon, and Miss Saigon's a tragedy, and it's really depressing and it makes you cry, and yet I love it. But this is not that kind of feeling bad. This is just like, it just felt wrong, and like it was wasted, and
it makes you angry that they did it.
and angry that they did it. Well, and part of that's because you're hoping for something else, and what you're hoping for is what Top Gun Maverick gave us. What I wanted to
Yep.
see, and this is what everyone wanted to see that was a fan, is Han and Luke and Leia get back together and be the heroes again and save the day and do something awesome.
That was one of the biggest reasons why people went to see that, was because they knew they were going to see Han, Luke, and Leia again.
And then they didn't even get them together.
When they didn't get them together. You didn't see Luke till the end of The Force Awakens. And then in The Last Jedi, he was just a jerk. And they made Leia out to be pretty kind of a jerk too. And doing things that defied even the world of Star Wars.
Leia was always kind of a jerk.
No, but she was cool. She was fun.
She was
that
spunky.
banter
Yeah.
that banter that would go between her and Han in the originals was just awesome.
good, yeah.
And that's what made those movies so great, was because they had such good chemistry when they were fighting.
Yeah.
with each other, bickering with each other, and but I loved that, and everybody loved it, and they came out with these new ones, and you're right that you expected something, and we got something complete. They took our world and they destroyed it. And then when they built their new empire of Galaxy's Edge and this new hotel that they have, it is all centered around the post original trilogy
Right.
world. It's centered around the after the destruction of the Empire. It's centered around the world of Ray and Finn and whatever, and it's just really unfortunate that's the world that they decided to sell.
Which the other flaw, the big flaw with these new movies is that the characters that they wrote just aren't likable. Like the new characters. Like I don't
No,
necessarily hate any of them per se, but I don't like them. I didn't like Ray, I didn't like Finn, I didn't like you just said his name and now my brain's doing that thing
I
again.
said Ray and Finn, and I don't remember the name of the Poe Dameron.
Poe, thank you.
I never saw. So I
Making
so
fools
for
of
the record,
ourselves.
yes, for the record, I never saw the very last one,
Right.
and
Well,
and for me
they're
to do
forgettable
that's saying
characters.
something. Yeah, they are forgettable characters. Well, they're not likable characters,
And they're not likable, yeah.
and well, they forced their character. They forced sudden character development that we never actually got to see. So
And
it
some
was
of the
really
stuff that they
unfortunate.
did develop that seemed like it might be interesting, then they abandoned it and abandoned it.
They abandoned things that were leading along, especially in the Last Jedi, where you had Finn going on this goose chase of a thing, and it ended up amounting to absolutely nothing
Yeah, that
with
was
Rose.
a terrible choice.
Absolutely nothing. And in the end, at the very end of the movie, you thought, why did they do that? And what good is Rose for? Why is she here? It's only to have another female character, because if you look at that evolution in these last Star Wars films, it was all female leads.
Yeah.
It was all female power, and the men were just there to support and to be kind of. It was kind of like the queen bee relationship with the worker bees, even though the worker bees are female as well. But the men are there to support, and that's about it.
And be fools.
And be fools. Yes, they were very foolish.
And interestingly enough, I think the Star Wars movies, the new trilogy, the newest trilogy, is not as egregious as things are becoming, but it stems from the same thing, where the priority in a lot of the choices that they made came from this social justice kind of diversity quota mentality. And it's not as bad as
Yeah.
it's getting, and Disney's moving that way with a vengeance now. And yeah, it's problematic, and it's more than being problematic. It feels like a betrayal. It's a betrayal to those
Yeah.
who love Disney.
Well, it caters to one demographic only. And when you cater to just one demographic, and when I say demographic, I just mean left leaning. If you are a progressive, if you are swayed by the leftist movement, which is wildly uninclusive, it is very anti-family, it is anti-American, it is anti-capitalism.
and
It's
the key word there when it comes to Disney is anti-family. And so that's
right.
why it's a betrayal. It's because
I agree, and it's really unfortunate too, because you have movies it's like what they've got coming out. That's this new Pinocchio movie that I think you had mentioned that it, by and large, it looks very much like
the original cartoon.
the animated version, where the Pinocchio looked like Pinocchio, and Tom Hanks looks like
Geppetto,
what's his bucket? Yeah,
and the
Geppetto.
fox and the things like that. They look like the characters from the cartoon. And then out of nowhere, you get this blue fairy that put aside the fact
blue,
that we both weren't sure whether it
minority,
was a male or
yes,
female.
bald,
The
bald
baldness played
female.
into it, because it was like it looked like a male in a dress, and we both were like, "Are they making
Yep.
trans?" And then it turns out, no, it's not. It's actually a female. But even that, putting
It
that
was
aside,
clear.
it's still just
It was
so out of place. It was like
yeah,
shockingly.
it was clear
not.
that their whole purpose behind that was to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Their version of inclusive. You can have characters that are that represent different racial demographics, and it's very, very good.
Well, and
But when
Pinocchio allowed for that.
it did,
Like they could have put all
it
sorts of
did.
racial diversity in Pinocchio.
Yeah. But when you force it, and because now you look at it and you think anybody who has seen the animated Pinocchio will look at that and say, this is absolutely not even this isn't real. This is them
It's a
forcing it.
message. Yeah.
I think they're doing the same thing with Ariel.
Yeah,
my
Ariel's
opinion,
a
I
little
think
less egregious, I think, but I agree.
to me it's unfortunate because you have people in that it's particularly young people where they agree that things need to be inclusive, but they have no idea why they say that
Yeah.
things need to be inclusive. They and then they use defensive posturing by putting you on the defensive and saying, "Well, what are you, a racist?"
Yeah.
And it's
and
really it's
that's
really too bad.
exactly what you're gonna get. Yeah.
It's exactly what you're going to get. Well, that's what happened with the latest Star Wars
Well, and
films. Was they went after the fans for not liking Finn. They went after the fans for not liking
Rose was the one that got the most.
Who was the one? So in these latest
The Star Wars
live action
the
Star
the
Wars
female
shows on Disney
I don't remember
Plus.
the name, but the female Jedi hunter that
Yeah,
happened to be
and she ended
black.
up being a Jedi, and she was trying to get vengeance on. Sorry if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't, then it's not my fault. She was trying to get vengeance for her for killing all the Jedi, so she was actually going after Darth Vader, and but she
Yeah.
was just a
Major
bad character.
spoilers. Don't listen to that part if you already did. If you haven't seen it.
That's right. If you didn't want to listen to
Reva.
that,
Reva's the character name,
Yep.
played by Moses
Yep.
Ingram. And just I don't know if it was a director's choice or an actor's choice or where the flaw came in that, but it was just, certainly the writing was part of the flaw, but the acting as well.
Absolutely.
It just didn't.
Well, she was very unlikable.
It didn't
She
fit.
was just unlikable.
She was unlikable, and it also didn't feel like it fit into the Star Wars universe. Felt very modern. There were just things about it that, it
Yes.
just didn't play. But none of that had anything to do with the color of her skin. Like,
And it really
write it
really-
differently,
yeah.
play it differently, act it differently. The color of her skin wouldn't have mattered at all.
Well, and it's really interesting that's where they go when here we have had Star Wars in 1980, Empire Strikes Back, where we had introduced a major black character in the films, and I would absolutely say that as a 9-year-old, when I watched that movie, and everybody around me, all of my friends, my parents, my family, everybody, not one of us ever once thought, "Oh my gosh, he's black." We loved Lando Calrissian.
You didn't even think about color of skin. Yeah.
I didn't even, I think that's actually very accurate. I never even thought about
We
it.
were
All
raised
we ever
on
thought
Martin
about,
Luther King's, colorblind.
we just thought he was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched Different Strokes growing up, and we loved it. It was hilarious. We absolutely loved it. And it wasn't because they were trying to get a message across. It was just because it was funny.
Though there was
And,
messaging in that show, for sure.
There was messaging,
Yeah.
but it was different. It was
It was kind of good
hey, look,
messaging, yeah.
we do live. Yeah, it was pro family. It was messaging. This is how you treat people.
Yeah, don't be
and
racist.
that's-
Don't be racist. And in
that's-
the
that's
real term of
when-
what racist actually means.
Exactly, and that's and in the show, they did it in a real in a sense where they were teaching lessons to particularly to kids, and the Cosby Show did that.
Mhm.
The Cosby Show, when the Cosby Show came out, it was the #1 show on television,
Yeah, we loved it.
and Bill Cosby.
Loved it as
Bill
kids.
Cosby was like he was America's dad.
Yeah.
Everybody loved Bill Cosby. I know, look, he's done a lot of really stupid stuff, but let's face what the reality was when we saw the Cosby Show and him on the Cosby Show, and that there was no messaging as far as, hey, if you're white, you're a racist. As a matter of fact,
Now that's kind of a
white
new
people
thing. Yeah.
white people in the show were never treated to be as if they were
No.
racists. They were just friends of the family, and it
And it
it
appealed to
all
everyone, which
and it did appeal to everyone, and they just happened to be a black
which
family.
speaks
That's
to
all it
the
was.
lie, the this current lie, like with the going back to Rings of Power. I know we're talking about Disney, but it's kind of all the same thing, right? The Rings of Power, I don't know if you've seen the comments that some of the cast has been making and seen some of the clips and stuff. It is so just like overbearingly I can't think of the word, but it's
So
just
basically, they're mad at what you're saying. What I think you're saying is they're
it's
mad at everybody.
sanctimonious is the word I'm looking
Yes,
for.
they're mad at everybody for not agreeing with them.
Well,
That's what it
right,
is.
but specifically, no, I'm talking the sanctimony. So that what they're getting there, and they're preaching about how this is a moment to change the world, to include, people of diversity, and so that you finally have representation. That people can see people in the movies who look like them and who represent them.
That's really disingenuous, because how long have we had inclusion in the films?
Well,
In
but
films?
putting that aside, the point I'm making is when you look at the Cosby Show, it puts a lie to that. Like, you and I were not represented by the Cosby Show. Did that make any difference at all to our love for it?
No, and you go 10 years before that, and you have the Jeffersons.
My daughter's favorite, back to Disney, my daughter's favorite Disney cartoon, I mean, she's a kid, so it jumps around, but one of the consistently favorite Disney cartoons is The Princess and the Frog.
That's because it's
And
one of yours.
no, it's entirely her. Like, we don't. I'm down working all day. I don't. She loves that one. She just loves it, and she it's one of those ones that she drives us crazy wanting to watch it all the time because we've seen it so many times. She just loves it, and she's totally colorblind to it. We haven't raised her.
Yep. Yep.
She doesn't even.
You don't bring it up. That's the thing,
And-
is
and
if you don't bring it up, there's nobody telling her how she's supposed to act. She's just naturally.
Yeah, to her,
liking
someone
it.
having darker skin is like someone having different color hair. Like, it's she, sure, she's aware of
Yeah.
it, but it's not like she doesn't think in terms of race in that way. And I think I told you that she told us the other week. She said that she wanted to be, and now my brain's doing it again. The princess's name in The Princess and the Frog, but she wanted to be her for
Halloween.
For Halloween, yeah. And I got to look this up because it drives me crazy when I can't think of the things that I need to think of in the moment because I'm on the spot.
Well,
I'm being filmed here, and it puts me on the spot, man. Come on, man.
You have so many you have so many things that Disney is doing right now that they control so much in our media. They
Tiana.
control so much on our television. Who's that?
Tiana. Sorry,
Tiana.
She wanted to be
There you
Tiana.
go.
For
Good
Halloween.
job.
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know the answer to that because I never
Yeah,
saw the movie.
yeah.
But there's so much in our media, in our entertainment, that is controlled by the Disney Corporation and their holdings. And they've been doing this now for a very long time. And what's really unfortunate to me, and it's very disappointing, is that they feel it is their job to message, to be social justice warriors, when nobody's asking for it but a very small minority.
Right.
And Twitter is
because most people don't care.
Most people don't care. Most people just want to be entertained.
Most people, if you do the Cosby Show, great, it's awesome.
Well, people don't go see movies. It's not just because of COVID. People don't go see movies because they suck.
Well,
they don't want to go. They don't want to go see a message. They want to see they want to be entertained.
Yeah,
they want
but even if it didn't suck,
flick.
there is a level where Christian people don't want certain things in their movies and are not going to see them, even if the movie's great. You're just not going to see it. So
Yes, I agree. And when you go into other things that Disney is doing in the parks, that they've been very pro gay for a very long time, well over 20 years,
mhm.
and they allowed gay weddings in their parks even in the 90s, even though it wasn't legal. People would still go and they would get married at Disney because Disney would cater to that. But at the time, it wasn't something that Disney thought that it was their mission to make sure that everybody agreed with them. And now they feel it's their mission to make sure everybody agrees with their point of view. And if you don't, then you're a bigot and you're a horrible person and you deserve to be canceled. And in Florida, especially, there is so much support to fight against it. Many people in Florida, the majority of people in Florida are on Governor DeSantis' side when it came, and the legislature, the state legislature side, when it came to doing what they did to make sure that a California corporation would not dictate what happens in Florida.
What is shocking, like disturbingly shocking, is how many, even though it is relatively small, how many people aren't on Ron DeSantis' side. Like, that's shocking to me. That there are people that want to, and it's something like, I don't remember what the numbers was, but it's something like 30% of people, even though 70% is a huge percent to be behind it. There's what is wrong with the 30% that want to teach 2-year-olds about sex?
Those are the people that are they're from Miami, not the Cuban culture, but they're from Miami, they're from Tampa, they're from Tallahassee, and they're from Orlando. Those are the people who are in favor of what Disney is doing.
It's
And
disturbing.
many of the employees, they do not like what is happening at Disney, because they
Yeah.
became employees of Disney because they loved Disney. They
And
grew up
because
on
they love
on
family.
Disney.
Yeah.
They love family. Well, they grew up with the messaging that Disney had. Look, for many
Which we
years,
did as well.
Disney had a messaging for a very long time that had very strong presence of fatherhood in their films. When you look at many of the films that they've made throughout the years,
With the exception
uh,
of the ones about orphans. The Rescuers.
which ones are the Rescuers? There was a very strong presence of fathers in many of their films, and people thought that it was because um, Disney hated women. And Walt Disney, I'm talking about, was a pretty profound family man. He did not put his family out on display for other people, and it was really a very strong part of um, their family. Roy Disney, which was a nephew to Walt Disney, before he died, he was asked about this movement towards wokeism and that type of messaging, and he said, "It should never happen. It'll never happen at Disney as long as I'm alive."
Yeah.
And then he passed away, and that's when they changed. And even the granddaughter of Walt Disney, she is extremely upset. She's very upset at what Disney has been doing, and she speaks out against the Disney Corporation quite often, even though she has a lot of money in Disney, um, just because of the family legacy.
And the family values in Disney, there's definitely, that definitely existed. Like, we both grew up on, you and I, we've talked about this before, where we grew up watching the Wonderful
World of Disney.
Wonderful why can't
The Wonderful
World of Disney, or Color, or whatever it was. I remember watching the wonderful, why can't I say that word today? World of Color, on like they'd reel in the
yeah, they don't call that anymore. They call it
the
they call it
8 millimeter,
something else now.
16 millimeter movies and play for
Yes.
you in school
Yes.
as a kid. Yeah,
Yes.
watching
Hmm.
Scrooge McDuck singing "Red, Yellow, Green, Blue, 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 Blue." You remember that one?
Look,
Singing
there
about
were there
colors.
were. Did you ever see the Gnome Mobile?
I expect I have, but that's not one I've seen a lot or remembered at this point.
Okay, so it was not one of their more successful films.
Right.
It is a classic live action Disney film from the 60s.
Now I got to
It
check it out.
has
Yeah, I love
it
those.
has the two yeah, it has the two children that play Jane and Michael in Mary Poppins, and
Oh
they
yeah,
look exactly like they did in Mary Poppins
sounded like
because
you
they
said
made that
Barry
film.
Poppins. Did you
Barry
Barry? It's
No,
your
yeah.
cold.
Well, that's because I'm thinking I'm Barry White.
Barry. That's how he identifies now.
Yes,
Is
that's how
Barry
Mary identifies
Barry
now as
Poppins.
Barry. So the two kids look exactly the same because they made the movie
That's right.
immediately after they made Mary Poppins, and the advertising says they were the two children in Mary Poppins.
That's right.
So anyway, they go and it's just a really fun movie. It's not wildly successful. It's definitely one of their more low grade films, but throughout the majority of the film, if you are a fan of the classic Disney films, I caught myself just a few months ago when we watched it again, caught myself considerably throughout the film smiling.
Hmm.
I was just happy. It makes you feel good. It's fun. Another one that I really liked was Blackbeard's Ghost.
Love that one. Yeah. Yeah, and we
Fun
watched
movie.
there's the I think it's called The Ugly Dotson, about a Great Dane that ends up, yep.
Yes.
And there's The
Yes.
Computer Who
Yep.
Wore Tennis Shoes and all the other Kurt Russell ones.
Yes.
Freaky
Yes.
Friday, the original Freaky Friday.
I didn't like Freaky Friday, the original, that much.
It's fun. It's fun. It's not one of the best, but yeah.
I didn't like it that much. I think
Jodie Foster.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it wasn't
but
as
yeah,
good to
then
me.
the musical ones as well. One of my favorites was the follow-up musical to Mary Poppins, which was The Happiest Millionaire, which was supposed to be their next big hit after Mary Poppins, and then didn't do what it was supposed to and stuff. But I love The Happiest Millionaire. It's one of my favorites. Um, and one of the things, I don't know. So we always would sit down on Sunday night to watch Disney, the wonderful world of Disney. And I don't know why I'm stumbling over that word so badly. But we'd make popcorn. It was our tradition. We'd make this huge big bowl of popcorn, and then sit down as a family in front of the
And it was
TV.
gone within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, of course, with way too much butter on it. And but the
Yeah.
thing about it is, it wasn't so much whether, because not all Disney shows had family values, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, is kind of when it maybe started going downhill. But even in the original, like you'd have shows like Swiss Family Robinson that were very family value oriented, but then you'd have other ones that weren't necessarily as much. But what they were is safe. Like, you knew that they were safe entertainment. It's one of the reasons. Despite is the word I'm looking for. Despite the fact that we were watching on Sunday, which, being a very religious family, we believed in keeping the Sabbath holy. We believed that we shouldn't just be watching any old thing on Sunday, but we felt safe and comfortable watching a Disney movie, or a Disney show, because they were safe. They were something that weren't going to be injecting language, sex, violence, those sorts of things into them. And so that's really plays into the betrayal feeling, because all of a sudden we're in a state where I do not feel that Disney or Pixar or the other properties that are owned by Disney are safe. Now, granted, I don't expect Star Wars or Marvel to be safe in the way of like no language or violence, sorts of things. So I understand that and I accept that. I wouldn't, therefore they're rated PG or PG-13, and I don't show them to my 5-year-old. But the Pixar movies that are rated G, I expect to be safe, and I don't think they are anymore. They're not safe anymore, and that's really a big part of why it feels like such a betrayal.
Yeah, to that, it's interesting because you have so many. You could see this transition that Disney started making really in the '90s, where they started moving away from the more family oriented films, and
Yep.
they started moving towards in the late '80s. You had the CEO
Michael
of
Eisner.
Disney, Michael Eisner, and he did bring back the Wonderful World of Disney. And it didn't last for very long because they didn't do a very good job with it. And you saw this transition happening in the '90s, and it was particularly
Well, it
because
started in
they
'89.
well they owned still own Touchstone Pictures,
Right.
and when they wanted to allow something that was not considered Disney-esque, they would release it under Touchstone
Right.
Pictures, and it would have all of the things that we now see in the vast majority of all of the films today
Right.
and television
Which is
shows.
fine, actually. I don't mind that approach at all. I wish they'd do that now. Like if they had
Uh,
Pixar,
it
Disney, and then they had another company where they did all their, stuff that wasn't family appropriate. Great. Then
um
I'd know.
yeah, but also keep it out of the parks. Keep it out of the parks. When families go to the parks, it's
Sure.
if you are a family that can afford to go to Disney, I don't know what you're doing, because I'd like to have some of what you're making, because I cannot afford to go
Yeah.
to Disney
That's
with
a
just my
that's a
son or daughter.
different subject for sure, but yeah.
If we were to go to Disney as Florida residents, and we went for, let's say, 3 days, it would cost us over $700
Yeah.
just for the two of us
So
for 3 days,
I
and we
would
live here.
I would yeah. I contend that in the movie side of thing that the change began with the Disney Renaissance. Began with which the Disney Renaissance started with The Little Mermaid. Now, I love the Disney Renaissance. I think, I have to question whether maybe there's some bias in that, and how much I'm not as critical of some of the stuff as maybe I should be. The Little Mermaid in particular, though, is not family values. Like it is a distinct and clear betrayal, opposition to family values. It is about a little girl who hates her family and wants to get away from them, and then in the end finally gets her dream, and her family learns to understand her. So instead of being the oppressive, mean father, suddenly now he's like, yeah, you're right, why don't you abandon your world and go join this other world that isn't part of our world. And the messaging in it is not family. It's not necessarily a good message. Now, is it utterly terrible to the point where I don't let my daughter watch it or something? No, I do let my daughter watch that. I think that contextually kids are able to understand, and you're not likely to be teaching your kid by watching The Little Mermaid that they should run away from home or something. But the message is there.
Well, you had okay, so the more modern Disney animated films are the Pixar films.
Right.
The Toy Story films have been incredibly popular, and it's
Which
it's
Toy
it's
Story was
it,
90s, right? When was the first Toy Story?
uh
I'm
no, I believe it was early 2000s, but they've still been
the
making them for
first
the
Toy
last 20
Story? No, it was
years.
before then. Let me pull it
So
up
they
here.
well, but they've had these really successful films. Finding Nemo is still
95.
absolutely
Sorry.
okay. So
Yeah, 95.
Finding Nemo is still one of my absolute favorite Pixar films. Um, my son thinks that Cars is the best Pixar
Interesting.
Disney film.
not a
He
not a
absolutely
popular
and,
opinion.
I don't know. I absolutely love Cars. It was so unique. This world that they created was just phenomenal. And it's things like that where Disney creates these worlds that you just don't think about.
Yeah.
But they do it, and it's so unique. All of the little nuances in the Cars movies were so neat, especially the first one, because you had the parts of the Southwest where the rock formations were in the shape of cars
Yeah.
or a grill or something like
That
that,
was cool.
an emblem. Yeah, and then you have uh, uh, all of all of the nuances that we know of our world that is just completely centered around cars.
Yeah.
So we just love it.
Bugs and
And
the
it was just
tractors and yeah, it's really
the
cool.
bugs. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious to see these little tiny flies that are
You know,
bugs
and
and they're actually Volkswagen Beetles.
Pixar to an extent is still doing that sort of thing. Um, like Inside Out is really interesting, really creative. I actually really liked Inside Out. It's fairly recent. I think they did some really interesting things with Soul, with their the the movie Soul. Um, but yeah, now it's like they just slowly it's kind of it started with the Beauty and the Beast live action Beauty and the Beast. I think was the first one where they started announcing that they were going to have quote unquote gay moment or something like that. And even though it was subtle and it wasn't right on the nose, um, they announced it, and then they have something like that in um,
The last Star Wars movie.
well, I'm talking specifically the Pixar stuff. The one that's
Buzz Lightyear.
well, Buzz Lightyear for sure. The latest movie was all I can think of is Enchanted, but it's the one where they have films. I should have
You should
I
you
sh-
should
I
you
should
should
have
have had this
I should have had
prepared
this
before you
prepared. But
started.
anyway, the one where they're um they play goblins or something like that. It's got Tom Holland in it and Chris Pratt, and they go on an adventure and a quest to bring back magic. And there's unicorns and manticores and different things like that and stuff.
Never heard of it.
Feeling
That is the
terrible
first
that I
I've
don't
heard of
remember
it.
the name of it.
Don't feel terrible because it doesn't matter.
It's a pretty good movie, but it has a pretty obvious homosexual type injection moment in it.
Well, when you have the higher ups at Disney talking about their not so secret gay agenda,
Yeah.
it's really apparent that what they are trying to do is to force a culture, a way of life onto everyone else. And the message is, we're coming for your children. You better like it, or we're going to cancel you, or you're a bad person, or you are a bigot, or the list goes on and on. And the nothing could be farther from the truth. We are living in a society where we're being ruled by the minority.
Yeah.
We have such a small amount of people who are telling everybody else how they are supposed to live, and if you don't get in line, then you're treated absolutely horribly. You're not welcome. You're not even American. This is why they hate America, is because it's full of people who are traditional Americans, and they just can't cope with it.
Yeah. It's called Onward, by the way. The name of that movie. So
Yeah.
it's a good movie. It's got this moment where a police lady talks about her girlfriend's kid. And you could translate it, a kid could translate it like girlfriend used to just mean you could use that to just mean my friend who's a girl, But
Right.
it's clearly not
Yeah.
meaning that in the context of this movie to an adult, but yeah, and in today's culture. So, but I guess yeah, the question of Disney morality. I mean, when it comes to pure morality, like religious morality, like if you believe in God and you believe in principles of the Bible and Scripture, is Disney that? Disney's not a religion, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be moral in that regard, and I don't think it ever has been. I don't think that's its objective. But what Disney was, once again, going back to it, is safe. Like you trusted that they were going to not put things that were offensive, that you don't want your kids hearing and don't want your kids seeing.
Well, this falls in line with a lot of the things that I've experienced, and my son has experienced over the last several years, is the metamorphosis of the Boy Scouts of America. We
Mhm.
have these institutions that we have all enjoyed for decades, and sometimes longer, that were safe. And all of a sudden, they have decided that in order to be socially acceptable, they must be woke. And what they've done is they've alienated the millions in order to gain 1,000, a few thousand. And it's really, it's so disappointing. And the money that they lose means nothing to them
No, because they have
because
an agenda.
their agenda is more important than what the purpose of business is. The purpose of business is to make money. There's no other purpose in business.
Well, there
If you
can
if
be.
your if your purpose is to do other things, then start a charity. The purpose of business in the business world is to make money.
Well, if you take Disney as an example, 'cause one of the points we had here was Disney agenda and how it's changed, what the Disney agenda was before and what it was now. Disney's agenda has always been a little bit above just making money. Now it is making money and stuff, but when Disney started Disney, his agenda was more than just that. He
Well, he had a passion. He had a passion, and he
and he
wanted to see it
didn't and he
fulfilled.
would not sell out that passion even for money, even for
Right.
ways where he could have made a quick buck. The quality and the dream and the passion and the things that he wanted mattered more.
But
And
that's what people wanted, though.
right,
That's what he sold what people
he
wanted
believed he could
because
make money
nobody.
with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And look, and he did, and he created just an incredible empire because of it.
And I think you can
Um,
do that. I think anyone who just simply takes like, I want to make money and that's the only goal, that's kind of a problem. Like what you want to do is you want to make money, but you want to do it in a way that also provides something that's useful for the world, something that is going to leave a good legacy, something that's going to
Well, if you don't have something that's going to be
benefit
good
society.
that the world, yeah, if you don't have something that's good and people want, then you won't make money. So
Well,
but still, the underlying goal of
maybe
business is you want to make money. Nobody goes out and says, I want to sell
there are
hubcaps.
a lot of dirty companies that go out though and just do something I mean, you see it at like what used to be, now it's through the internet, but what used to be late night TV commercials, where they're selling you knife sets or something like that. And they've sourced some cheap Chinese made thing, and then they're selling it as
For
for
1995.
1995.
But wait,
Yeah, but wait,
if
yeah,
you act now, you get
exactly.
2 sets
And
of Shinto
right,
knives.
and the business model is entirely about making money, and it's kind of underhanded and stuff. That's going to exist. That exists. That always exists. There's always going to be people that are just going to be like, I just need to make money, and they don't care if they have passion about it. They don't care if it's a product that's of value. They just are looking for what's going to make money, and that's the only priority for them. And I think that's a problem, right? I don't think business should run that way.
That's your salesman. That's typically a salesman. That's the person who is in it for themselves.
Right.
There are people who do have good motives, but if you do not make money, you will not succeed
Yeah.
in business.
Yeah, it has to at
So
some level be about money.
you have to generate revenue.
And Disney's always
had-
Disney's not a nonprofit and never has been. Disney is a for-profit business. But they did have a broader agenda than just making money, and that agenda was family. I mean, it was
and now they
family.
feel that their agenda has to be
destroying family.
Destroying families. Has to be all about the minority in society. Their job is now to make everybody else agree and feel bad about themselves, and because they've apparently had it all wrong. All of the things that we have done as civilization since the beginning of time are now turned upside
Must have all
down.
been
We are
wrong,
in
yeah.
we're
Because
yeah,
we're
all of a
smarter. We have
sudden-
the internet.
Yes. And isn't it amazing how much dumber society is? Just watch Man on the Street videos.
Yeah.
So I think
Of course, I'm one to talk.
Something
I
that
can't
we-
come up with any of my words today, so I'm looking
something that we
particularly
talked
bright
about
myself.
this is something that we talked about a couple weeks ago was this now I'm doing it. There was a thing about how making movies, making good entertainment seemed to be really kind of a thing of the past. And we are in this era now where having a message that is not popular is really more important. And why serving an ideology is important to Disney, I do not understand. The ideology that they had, which you mentioned before, was create a safe place for families. And it wasn't
with great
they didn't
quality. Yeah.
yeah, they never called it a safe place, but Disney was really, really big on a place where families could go and really have a good time. If you stepped into a Disney park, you wanted to make sure that that family forgot about the world around them.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. And take them into a world where they feel like they are part of that world. Now they have so much merchandising. They have so much stuff that doesn't mean anything. You could have gone to Disney. We went to Disney a couple of times when I was growing up. My family did. And I think the only thing I ever walked away with was a stuffed Pluto dog, like the stuffed toy.
Yeah, but I don't mind the
And
merchandising. If
I don't mind the merchandising, but there's so much of it now where everything is merchandising. You have covers for your iPhones. You have memorabilia
yeah,
that you get because you buy it at an emotional level. But when we went before, it was the atmosphere. It was the atmosphere. It was having fun. It was really just an incredibly enjoyable place. Now you are surrounded by all of the things that you can spend money on.
and I mind the prices. You know, the prices are outrageous, but the merchandising itself, I think you could still create the atmosphere and have the merchandising tied into that successfully. And I don't mind that. I don't begrudge them making money. Like you said, they're a business. They're making money. They're about money. But what I do mind is when they're trying to inject this you know, the commercialism's not that's not the offensive thing. It's the social justice woke garbage that they're trying to force on my children that is not my standards, that I don't want my children taught those sorts of things. And
Hmm. Yeah.
the reason, like I said, the reason that I feel betrayed, well, it's because I love Disney. I love Disney. That's why I feel so betrayed. It's more offensive to me than all the other companies going woke, and all the other streaming services putting stuff that, you know, I don't like or whatever. All of that, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the woke stuff. I think it's a mistake, but it doesn't offend me personally the way that Disney does because of how much I love Disney. That's really
Well,
frustrating to me.
because they did stand for that. That they stood for the family many years ago. It was somebody that you could trust, and now they've broken that trust, and now they're telling us to be ashamed
And that we're
because
the problem. Yep.
because they've broken our trust.
So we're getting a little low on time here. We've been over an hour. So let me ask you this question before we finish up. As Christians, as family people, as you know, with the principles we have and those who are like us, should we be boycotting Disney then? Do you think that's the answer? Or even if it's not the answer, should we be doing it?
I think it's really a question of should we throw money at things where we know our money is going to be spent on things we don't agree with. If our money that we spend, which is hard earned money, is going to be spent on things that are fighting against us, I don't want my money going towards that. It's just like taxes. If we have taxes that are being taken away and being given to other people, like this new student loan forgiveness thing, everybody's going to have to do that. And how betrayed do we feel when the government takes our money and then does things with it that we don't like?
So have you seen the
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I have personally made a decision. They're not going to get my money. I don't buy anything
you
Disney.
mean? Yeah. So are you familiar with Jeremy's Razors?
Yeah.
I hate Harry's.com.
Love it. I hate Harry's.com. Yeah.
And one of the things he says in that commercial is he says, "Stop giving your money to people who hate you." I think that may not be a quote, but that's a, you know,
That's pretty much
stop giving
I
your
think
money
it
to
does
people
say
who
that.
hate you. And that's
what
exactly
Disney is.
what it
They
is.
hate you.
Disney hates you.
Disney
If you're
hates
conservative,
you.
Disney hates you. And so that's exactly how
Well,
I feel.
if you're a traditional family, even if you are liberal and you are in a traditional family, Disney hates you. If you are white, Disney hates you. Funny enough, because they all of the executives are white.
Yeah. Well, the way
most of them,
my conclusion is not to totally boycott them yet. What I think at this point, my approach,
well, they're not getting my money.
My approach is this: if they put out family friendly quality stuff, I will pay for it in a heartbeat. If they put out stuff that isn't family friendly, I will not give them a cent, because I'm still trying to sell that message. And I would hope that if everyone who felt as I do embraced that ideology, and we continue to see things like Buzz Lightyear bomb, and then we see things like Top Gun Maverick. I know that's not Disney, but we see things like that, if Disney puts out something like that, I'll pay for it in a heartbeat, because I want to send the message still. This is what I want from you. You want my money, give me this kind of stuff. And I'm still hopeful that if enough people do that and join in that sort of sentiment and actual action, not just sentiment, but actually do that sort of thing, that maybe some changes can still happen. But I'm not super hopeful.
Until and honestly, the way I feel about it, because I do feel so betrayed, is that until Bob Chapek stands up with a pair and says, we are no longer going to make wokeness our top priority. We're not even going to make it a priority.
We're going to disallow it, is what it should
we
be.
are going to, we are now going to just go back to providing the entertainment that Disney was known for decades. If they did that, I would gladly do it. Now,
Yeah.
I would be careful at first and have to screen some things.
Make sure he
before
meant
they-
it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to make sure. But if he did that, I would gladly then go spend my money with Disney.
But either way, I think we're agreed, and I think we advocate everyone else who is of like-mindedness to not.
Yes, you
put
should
your
hate
money.
Disney.
Yeah, don't.
You should hate Disney. You should not give them their money, and if you don't, you're a bad person. That was the whole message.
Don't.
Just kidding.
Yeah, stop paying your money into the coffers of Satan. If you're a Christian, we agree Disney is Satan right now, right?
They're definitely doing Satan's work.
But
Yes,
yeah, stop
Satan's
giving
bidding.
your money to the stuff that hates you. Stop sending the message that if you make this kind of garbage, you'll still get our money. Stop doing it. Whether you call it a boycott or not is not really meaningful.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
doesn't
care
matter
if
what
you
it's
use the word
called.
boycott.
Yeah,
I don't think of it as a boycott. I think of it as a decision.
I don't
that
either.
I am not
Yeah.
going to give my money to a place that basically is going to do pretty bad things with it.
Yep. And taking a principled stand in that regard. So with that, go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment if you have a comment. If you agree with us, don't agree with us, whatever. We appreciate you joining in and listening to us rant on about Disney for a little bit and other entertainment issues.
About random things. And on the next episode, we review the first episode of Rings of Power.
That's the plan, yeah. So we'll watch it tonight, maybe. Maybe we'll do another one tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.